Thank you very much for the invitation. It's always wonderful to have an excuse to come to Barcelona, beautiful Barcelona. I will be on a little bit less high-flying footing because I'll be talking on the more operational side of things, as that's what I am good at, in the sense that I am not an architect or are able to explain in greater detail all the intricacies and specialities of CANLIS. But I'm assuming that most of you are aware that Jørn Utzon, in the beginning of the 70s, built this house in a sort of a very dynamic, progressive fashion, without having a master plan or a fair schedule, but based on the family routines in the Utzon family, which at that time consisted of his wife and himself and the teenage son, and built a fairly small house, or actually it's 4 different separate houses in local materials. The Marais stone, sandstone, and for the walls, and the slightly harder sandstone, Santanese sandstone for the floors, and Madre Norte, the Mallorquin pine for the windows, and local materials. And it's important in the sense that that also means that it's quite a sturdy, quite a robust house. And from an operational point of view, that means that there are not so many renovations taking place. But of course, when we took over in 2011, we had to renovate some of it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And here is this. But just to put you in the context and not to talk so much about me, just to make sure that I'm also a chairman of what is called the Obel Family Foundation, which has been doing tobacco in Aalborg, north of Denmark, for many years. And that's the reason why we got involved in the first Utzon project, which is not CANLIS, but the Utzon Center in Aalborg, which is, as you can see, which is a place where we have exhibition halls. We have the Utzon Archive, which was the reason why, which is based at the university, and the university had a virtual Utzon Center for a long time, and then they wanted to make it a physical one, and they were looking for funding for this place. Jørn Utzon, together with his son Kim, did the drawings and the conceptualizing of the project, and it's now a realized project since 2008. At Jørn Utzon's 90th birthday, it was opened in Aalborg. It also houses the university's workshop for model building and other activities such as a small restaurant and so forth. It's kind of a mixed center, which is now, and I'm sorry I put in MoMA there, it's the Aalborg version of MoMA, the modern Museum of Modern Art in Aalborg, which is an alto, a barriere building, which is also at the moment undergoing a major restoration, but that's a different story. But that means that we are very fortunate in the sense that we have strong links to both Utzon, who grew up in Aalborg, and Alto in Aalborg. And the purpose, where I put the objective there and put it in Danish, is that the purpose of the Utzon Foundation is to perpetuate Utzon not as a memorial, but kind of like based on taking offspring on his philosophy about architecture, to try and convey the sort of Nordic approach to it and the story of it. So when we, a few years, well, this is what it looks like, and you can see here the webpage, right on the fjord, Limfjorden, where Mr. Utzon's father was ran the shipyard in Aalborg, and Jørn Utzon, when he grew up, was sailing on this fjord, and the sails and on some of the boats that his own father drew. But I'm digressing a little bit, because when CANLIS, then, I mean, Jørn Utzon built it in the beginning of the 70s, and him and his wife Liz stayed there for many years. But and then later, when they built the other house, Canfilis, up in the mountains where they originally wanted to live, Jørn in the late 90s passed on some of his properties to his children, and Kim, the younger son, inherited this, and he didn't want to keep it, he didn't want to use it as his own private home, and he didn't want to sell it. So we had a negotiation, a serious discussion about how to do that. And we finally agreed. It's not easy to assess the value of a house like that. And of course, for the Utzon Foundation, one thing was the price and how if we could raise that. But the other thing, and I suppose that's also quite an important factor, was whether it was possible to have a sustainable model for it. Now, the house is not a very big one, so there's a limited number of things you can do with it. And but first, I'll just briefly go through the different considerations we had regarding the renovations. We didn't want to do a major. It wasn't necessary to do a major renovations. Actually, there were, of course, things that were quite worn and quite had to be replaced. But mainly it was a matter of looking very carefully at all the things that had altered since Jørn Utzon moved in. Some of the things were actually improvements, such as they were putting tiles on top of the walls in order for the water not to seep into the murals. And that was basically a protection of it. The dining area was simply too small for practical use, so that was actually extended a little bit. Those things we decided that they were not things that we wanted to change. You can always discuss, and it was, the architects are still discussing what to do. But there were also quick fixes. He was concerned about beams not being strong enough, so he put on an extra arch some places. And there were also what I call substandard solutions, maybe not at that time, but he didn't have much interest in bathrooms or kitchens and things like that. So that was very sort of just a shower niche that was put in order the local market. And those things we thought, if we wanted to use the house for other people, we needed to upgrade that a little bit. Then Kim Utzon, when he took over, had done a few things such as open plan kitchen, and he'd put in a double bed, which was never in the first place. There were two separate bedrooms, one for Jørn, one for Liz, long, very narrow beds, and then one bed for Kim. And we went back on that. So as I said, we did wear and tear and a few alterations. This is what I told you about the arch, where you can see, I don't know if it's, yeah, you see this was the arch that he was concerned was breaking down, so he put in an extra arch. And this is the window where the big sitting room where you have a wonderful view from here. So we basically removed that. That was actually the major renovation we did, or the most costly one. This was the old bathrooms, which were, of course, not very practical. And this has been upgraded, I would say, in many ways, but is not true in the sense to what Jørn Utzon thought. But I don't think he had much thought about it at all. It was just put in there. So, and this works from a more practical point of view, much better, and by our standards, may perhaps also a little bit more beautiful. Well, the challenges in the house that we have seen so far has been, we need to generate visitors' interest and to manage tourist interest. And what I mean by that is that there are lots and lots of people that come around, ring the bell, walk in. It's easily accessible. It's right on the water, so people can use the right of way and come from the other side. And at the same time, we want to make sure that the people that are interested in residencies and other long-term visits are there and are able to plan around to come there. We, of course, want to keep the cost down. And then, of course, we have, as you always have, we have a very good support from the local municipality and other areas, but we also have to make sure we discuss with them in good time and keep a good relationship going. And some approvals and some things like that take a long time. But we've managed all that now. I want to point out, we have here Jose Vidal, who is the guy who not built the original house, but he was the one who was the entrepreneur on the Can Feliz and worked closely with Jørn and Liz on building the second house, which of course is based on very much the same principles. And he has always been, since for a long time, he's been responsible for the maintaining and for the keeping of this house as well. And we're very fortunate that he is still involved in it. And of course, we always think a little bit ahead of what will happen in the long term with the Can Liz. What we do right now is we have an agreement with the Danish Arts Foundation, who open calls for artists or architects to come and stay for 1 month at a time. They give them a little bit of money. They gave us a little bit of money to use the house. And that means that 9 months of the year we have residencies of different people. And as I said, it's mostly architects and artists, but it's based on and I don't even see the applications or anything. We're just informed, what kind of, so that's run completely by them, which is of course also very easy and convenient for us. And I would like to stress it's open to all nationalities, and it's an English website for that. We also like to have schools, architectural schools, and they are typically the more mature students for for the master's programs, restoration architects or similar. We only allow small groups. There are only 2 bedrooms, as I said, or 2 beds. We allow that to be 4 people who can sleep in the house at one time, and then they must alternate, or otherwise stay in town. And we do that 6 to 8 weeks a year. We have programs with a few schools, but we want to, it's a little bit like a first come, first served basis as well. They make a little more mess than the regular visitors, so they pay a little bit for the cleaning, but apart from that, it's fine. And then we try and do open houses. We can do as many open houses as we want. We do about 5-6 days a year. We do them in groups. You have to sign up in advance so that we know, and we just have people that open the door and make sure everybody has left by the time. As most of you know, it's not a house with a great deal of furniture. Most of the furniture are fixed. There's a picture at the end where you see a little bit of the furniture, but otherwise it's not a complicated house in that sense to guard or look after. And then the remaining weeks, which are at the moment 3 to 6 weeks, we rent it out for 2,000 euros a week, which is apparently it's not a problematic price so far. It hasn't been anyway. And that's the only real income we can generate from the house. And of course, we have an option all the time to increase that. We have a long list of people that have indicated that they're interested and can even come in if there's a week for some reason. And then, of course, we also like to have 1 or 2 weeks every year where we look after the house and cut the bushes and whatever is needed to do. This is the website where you can book. And we can see a lot of pictures from the restoration and from the different things, and also there's a link to the Utzon Center. We have here the link for the Danish Arts Council, where you apply, where you can see that I know it's a very popular program for them. They are very happy to run it, and they're very serious about how they evaluate the different. Actually, well, no, I shouldn't say that because he's sorry. There was a close family link to Jørn Utzon who were not allowed to come there, even though he had been there many times. Anyway, this is very flat-foot, I know, but this is just to indicate to you at the moment that's how the finances look, because we have a little bit of income on the Utzon Center, which we put into the house. But eventually the idea is that we must have at least the same cost as we have. I mean, we must have at least the same income as we have cost, obviously. And that means that basically we will have to let it for an extra 8 weeks a year, or find other ways of generating income. We don't charge anything for the visitors. We could open it more. We could do perhaps other things. We try and publicize and make sure that things are documented as well, but we are not in any way a professional architectural capacity. So basically it's people that have helped us. The architect Lise Juhl has done the renovation, and she's doing a book at the moment, which is excavating, and the photographer has just published a book now on a German with a German publisher, and I can't remember the name right now. We have done in a different context. We've done an exchange program with Australia, where they do architects, designers, and engineers that work together, interdisciplinary program, and they do 6 to 8 weeks stay in each other's countries every year. And the first week they spend to get together, because they're chosen from different positions, so they spend the first week in Canlis to get to know each other and set the rules sort of for that group. And that works closely also with Sydney Opera House, where we also try and maintain close ties. And I think that was it. Yeah.